This section talks about Chapter 3, conflicts and struggles, jealousy, doubts, dreams that pull them in different directions. Love becomes a battlefield of silence and words that hurt too much to say. Will they survive the storm in their hearts? Where the Light Stays, Chapter 3, conflicts and struggles. The weeks that followed were filled with the kind of brightness that can blind. Every corner of the city seemed to conspire with them. Sun breaking through at the right moment, the baker slipping an extra pastry into their bag, strangers smiling at their laughter. They moved together as though the world had always meant them to. Yet brightness, if it is too constant, can also cast shadows no one expects. It began subtly, a small silence in the middle of a conversation, a look that lingered too long on the floor instead of at each other's faces. Little cracks that, alone, seemed harmless, but together formed patterns neither of them wished to name. Maya's days were becoming heavier. The recital her teacher had pressed upon her loomed nearer, and with it came rehearsals that stretched late into the evening. When Luca asked to meet, she often hesitated, glancing toward the clock, toward the score waiting for her at the piano. "I'll be there after practice," she would say. But more often than not, after meant hours later, when exhaustion pressed on her shoulders and her smile was thin with fatigue. Luca tried to understand. He told himself this was her dream, that she had given him more of her time than he deserved. Yet part of him, selfish, foolish, utterly human, ached with the thought that she might be slipping somewhere he could not follow. One evening, he arrived at the practice room above the bakery, hoping to surprise her. He carried a bag with 2 coffees, a ridiculous amount of cinnamon rolls, and the photograph he had finally dared to print. Her by the harbor, eyes turned to the horizon, light sweeping across her face. But when he opened the door, he found her not at the piano, but standing by the window with another man. Tall, composed, with the kind of presence that filled a room effortlessly. He was speaking in low tones, gesturing with long hands while Maya listened with her head bowed slightly, as if the weight of his words was pressing down on her. Luca froze. The coffees trembled in his hands, lids rattling. Maya looked up then, startled, her eyes wide. "Luca," she said quickly, "this is Adrian. He's been helping me prepare for the audition abroad." Adrian extended a polite hand, his smile professional. "You must be the photographer." The word struck Luca harder than it should have. The photographer, as though that was all he was, as though the world between him and Maya could be reduced to a profession. He shook the hand, felt it firm and cool, then muttered something about needing air. Later, Maya found him outside, sitting on the seawall, his bag of pastries untouched. "Why didn't you tell me?" he asked, his voice low. "I thought I had," she said gently. "Adrian was arranged through the conservatory. He's an advisor of sorts." "Of sorts," Luca repeated, staring at the waves. She sat beside him. "You're angry." "No," he said, though the word cracked. "I'm displaced. Like I walked into a room that was ours and found out it wasn't." Her hand twitched toward his, then withdrew. "This is my future, Luca. I can't ignore it." "I know," he whispered. "I just don't know if your future has space for me." The silence stretched, broken only by gulls crying over the harbor. For the first time, neither of them knew how to fill it. The days grew sharper after that. Little disagreements pricked at them like needles. When Maya canceled an evening together to rehearse, Luca forced a smile and said he understood, but inside resentment curled like smoke. When Luca took a last-minute trip to photograph fishermen in a neighboring town, Maya said nothing, but lay awake wondering why he could leave so easily. Once, when they finally did meet, they argued over nothing, over whether to walk by the docks or up the hill, over which cafe had better coffee, over a trivial joke that landed wrong. The argument ended with them walking in silence, their steps loud against the stones. Maya broke first. "Why do we do this?" she whispered. "Because we care too much," Luca said, though his tone was weary. But caring felt heavier each day. Inside, both of them carried storms. Maya lay awake nights staring at her ceiling, hearing the keys of the piano echo in her skull. Her father's letters grew more insistent. Scholarships abroad, opportunities not to be wasted, the reminder that her talent was not hers alone, but carried the weight of her family's sacrifices. She thought of Luca, his laughter, his wandering eyes that saw beauty in the ordinary. She thought of how he had looked the night he found her with Adrian, hurt, small, uncertain, and guilt twisted inside her. Luca wandered the streets with his camera, but found no joy in the images. Every photograph felt hollow. He began to question himself. Was he merely another draft in Maya's story? Something temporary, destined to be erased when she crossed the border into the life she was meant for? He remembered her words, "I want someone to look and say, 'There you are, that's enough.'" He wanted to be that someone, but was he enough? One evening their tension snapped. They met at the noodle shop where everything had begun, but instead of warmth and laughter, the air between them was taut. "You didn't come to the festival yesterday," Maya said, her chopsticks still untouched. "You didn't tell me you were playing with Adrian until I stumbled upon it," Luca retorted. Her eyes flashed. "So that's what this is about? Adrian?" "It's about being left outside the parts of your life that matter," he said, sharper than he intended. "You think it's easy for me?" she snapped. "Every hour I'm with you, I feel guilty for not practicing. Every hour I'm practicing, I feel guilty for not being with you. I can't divide myself in two forever. And I can't keep waiting for scraps of your time," he said, his voice breaking. "I don't want to be the afterthought at the end of your day." The words fell between them like shattered glass. Both froze, realizing too late what they had said. Maya looked down, blinking rapidly. "Maybe you're right," she whispered. "Maybe I don't have space for both." Luca's chest tightened. He wanted to take it back, to tell her she was worth every waiting hour, every sacrifice. But pride, fear, and hurt kept his tongue still. They finished their meal in silence, the fogged window hiding them from the world. When they parted outside, there was no promise of tomorrow, only the echo of what they could not say. The city seemed colder after that. Maya poured herself into rehearsals. Adrian pushed her hard, demanding precision, perfection. Sometimes she succeeded, sometimes she faltered. But always when her fingers struck the keys, she felt the absence of Luca like a missed note in the melody. Luca, meanwhile, drifted further. He spent days photographing strangers, nights staring at unfinished letters he never sent. His suitcase sat half-packed by the door, a silent temptation to escape again, to vanish into another city where love was simpler because it didn't exist. And yet neither of them let go fully. They passed each other in the square once, her arms full of sheet music, his bag heavy with lenses. Their eyes met. For a second, everything softened. But neither spoke, and the moment dissolved. One night, unable to bear it, Maya went to the harbor alone. The sea was wild, waves slamming against the stones, spray biting her face. She clutched the railing, tears mixing with salt. "I want both," she whispered into the wind. "I want the music. And him. Why can't I have both?" She did not know Luca was nearby, standing on the pier with his camera hanging useless at his side. He heard her words carried by the storm, and something inside him shifted, not enough to heal, but enough to keep him rooted instead of leaving. He turned away before she saw him. The conflicts did not end that night, but from then on they both carried the knowledge that beneath the anger, the jealousy, the doubt, there was still love, raw, persistent, impossible to ignore. And like all storms, theirs was moving toward a breaking point. If you love romance, emotional storytelling, and cinematic vibes, this is for you. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this story with someone who believes in true love.